Of course, Dom Farrell for Sporting News here with promoter Eddie Hearn at the launch event for Fight Week of Bivol-Ramirez in Abu Dhabi. Eddie, how's it going?
It's going fantastically well. I mean, we're very lucky to be here. Tuesday, incredible event, launching a very special, important week for us in Abu Dhabi. The first of the Champion Series, tremendous fight card. Can't wait for Saturday night live on DAZN.
Yeah, it's seems a strange thing to say after Bivol has beaten the pound-for-pound superstar in the sport last time round, but is it good for Dimitri Bivol being the star this time, being the A-side? That's a new thing for him, and I think he's hard-earned.
I think it's a lot of pressure, you know, like coming off the back of, obviously, the Canelo victory. He's put himself on that pound-for-pound list, you know, the anticipation, the expectation of him is a lot higher now. And I think, you know, sometimes fighters rise to that, sometimes they don't, but he's a tremendous fighter, but so is Ramirez. You know, this is a real elite matchup. Yeah,
it's a lot of the focus after the Canelo fight was like how did Canelo lose, maybe rather than how did Bivol win, which again is because Canelo's who he is, but Dimitri sort of ended up on pound-for-pound lists that we want to find him on. But is this, if Dimitri gets the job done, is this a fight that properly announces him as this is a guy who is one of the very, very best in the sport?
Yeah, I think he's the best 175-pounder in the world. But, you know, when you're on the pound-for-pound list, obviously at the same time, it's a special list for special fighters. We feel that Dimitri Bivol is a special fighter, but so is Ramirez. That's why I'm saying this is an elite matchup. Like, this guy's 44-0. He's a former 168-pound world champion. He's a fantastic fighter. So this is very, very high level, and you're going to see a tremendous fight.
Yeah, the size of him is unreal, isn't it? Like you say, he used to fight 168. I think on Fight Night in his last fight, he was over 200 pounds. I mean, it's like, okay, they're both Mexicans, but it's a very, very different challenge to Canelo, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think this is a true light heavyweight. Obviously, Canelo Alvarez is a small 168, really. This is a big 175-pounder that will, on the night, have a big weight advantage going into the fight itself. But, you know, very, as I said, an elite matchup.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned Bivol maybe being the best at 175 pounds. The guy with all the other belts is Artur Beterbiev. But there's also the matter of a Canelo rematch maybe next year. Now, I know in the build, I spoke to Dimitri and he was saying maybe that doesn't excite him like it used to, but I don't know. There's big fights anywhere you look for him if he gets through Saturday night.
I think if Bivol wins, you know, there's two fights really. One is the undisputed fight with Artur Beterbiev, and the other one is Canelo Alvarez, you know, and Canelo Alvarez is going to want to try and avenge that defeat. But, you know, it's two great options, but all of his focus is on Ramirez.
Yeah, we talk about huge fights and rematches. Obviously, there's already been talk about Taylor Serrano at Croke Park after Katie won at the weekend. The co-main event here with Shanta Cameron against Jesse McCaskill for the undisputed 140-pound title. Someone wins that well, they put themselves right in that Croke Park conversation.
Without a doubt, you know, I mean, firstly, you know, Jessica McCaskill is massively underrated. You know, I mean, she challenged Katie Taylor at 135 pounds. Gave her a great fight. She moved to 140. She won a world title. She unified the division. She moved to 147. She became undisputed at 147. She comes back to 140 trying to become undisputed. She's a real female great. And Chantel Cameron's an outstanding talent. She's unified at 140, but this is the moment for her, you know, and people have been talking about Taylor Cameron for a long time. But I felt like, you know, one of the reasons we made the tournament was to try and see Chantel become undisputed. Now she's got a chance to do it, and that'll put her right in the frame for a Katie Taylor fight.
Yeah, obviously, Cameron and McCaskill are two fighters who are very experienced at world level, who expect to be in these fights. Zelfa Barrett maybe wouldn't have expected to be in the position he's in against Rakhimov. It's a sort of a proper opportunity knocks for Zelfa after what happened to Joe Cordina. I mean, yeah, it's an opportunity he's got to try and grab, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that, you know, realistically, we knew that Zelfa would fight for a world title. We didn't expect it under these circumstances. You know, we felt that obviously Joe Cordina would be fighting Rakhimov. He broke his hand. Both these guys have signed to fight Joe Cordina next if they win.
So it's a huge carrot, isn't it?
Yeah, and Joe will be here as well. And, you know, but for Zelfa, what an opportunity to become world champion. Rakhimov is an elite fighter. Zelfa's got a fight at a level he's never boxed at before. But I truly believe he can do it. And it's going to be a brilliant fight, and we'll be really screaming for Zelfa.
Just the last one on the card from me. Galal Yafai sounds daft, it's his third fight, but because of his skill set and because of the weight division he's in, not too far from a world title fight if he gets the job done right.
Yeah, I think this is a really tough fight against Rodriguez, you know, and after this, there's really only one or two more fights before you fight for a world title. This is an elite talent, obviously an Olympic gold medalist as well. but very, very good fighter. And a tough fight for Galal Yafai, but just a star-studded cast from top to bottom on Saturday night.
Is it nice to be out of the UK, given all that's gone on over the last few weeks? Is there a bit of a release at the moment?
UK's my home, so it's been a very difficult few weeks. Someone said to me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay, but I'm okay. I like to be a lot better than okay." So it's been tough, but you can't expect to have the good times without the bad times. It's nice to come places where people really appreciate you, like Australia, Mexico, Abu Dhabi, but UK will always be our number one market. So we're not running from anyone. We've been there, we've been answering the questions, but we are a global promotional company, and this is a really big week for our business.
Yeah, I know obviously you've been very thorough on Conor Benn, and I know there's legal things, so we can't talk specifically about Conor. You've done a lot. However, now I want to talk more broadly though, because one thing I think that's come out, I think you said, is you don't want these sort of situations to occur again. Things have got to change. Now, one of those off the top of my head would be tidying up the Boxing Board of Control and VADA situation, but as a promoter, because obviously we've had the White Rivas situation that was similar. There may or may not have been other situations that we've never found out about. What do you want to see change so there's clarity?
Really, we could do with a universally recognisable body that all commissions abide by. One of the problems going in here was the British Boxing Board of Control have their own testing agency, UKAD, and Conor Benn tested negative on all his UKAD tests for that fight, but he had an adverse finding on a VADA test, which the board don't acknowledge. One of the reasons we got in this mess is because the board knew about these results the same time we did, but took many weeks to decide not to sanction a fight. Whereas if they just had a procedure in place, and we're paying for the additional layers of testing through VADA, so really they should acknowledge it. They should be in a position where they say, no, we accept and acknowledge VADA testing, but they don't. So it is messy. And I think...
Is there a situation where, have you had an indication that the board might now accept VADA, or...?
No, I mean, it's a question for them. Some people think we're the board. Some people think we're the regulatory body. In that instance, we gave all the information to the board and awaited their decision. Took many weeks, unfortunately. It actually put us in a shitty position, but anyway. So that's down to them.
Yeah, I mean, you say about you pay for VADA and VADA is expensive, that's well documented. But from speaking to a few other people around the sport about general levels of testing, I think this is something that's come out, like, I was speaking to Chantal Cameron the other week at a gym, and she said she's never had a other than fight night test as a pro, and she'd not been tested in the build-up to this. Jamie Moore was saying if Jack Catterall had a non-title fight this summer to tick over before Josh Taylor, never in a million years would he have been tested. As someone who's in the business of, looking after your fighters and you want to protect your fighters, that's not a level of testing you can really be happy about. Like, before world level, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, we have VADA testing for all our major fights, and we pay for it. It's about 30 to 40,000 per fight. So, but we make sure we have it in place. We can't have it for the entire card. UKAD testing is quite stringent, but only for high-profile fights. So if you look at Conor Benn, I believe he was tested 3 times during his camp, right? It's quite a lot over a 9-week camp. I think he was tested 3 or 4 times with VADA as well. So, but you are right, they are right. They don't test fights or fighters that aren't high-profile away from fight night testing. But that's on the board. We're paying for this additional testing. The board want to pay for their testing, and that's UKAD. So, it's not... We have a responsibility to keep the sport as clean as possible, but the governing body are the regulatory authority, right? But the other problem is, and I don't want to get them out of trouble, the board, it's expensive. And quite frankly, they cannot financially afford to test everybody, every camp, 6-rounders, 8-rounders, 10-rounders, but...
Is that a problem though? Because it's like you end up with a 2-tier thing, and obviously if someone...
It is, I don't know the answer. There's a lot of sports where there's not consistent testing. Do you know what I mean? The only good thing I'll say about the board is, with the UKAD testing, it is random. And all those fighters, just because they haven't been tested recently, doesn't mean they're not going to get tested. When you sign up to random testing with UKAD, it can come at any time. So there is a layer of benefit to a fighter signing up to random testing, knowing that at some point they will be tested, but we can always evolve and improve.
Yeah, just to move on, I want to talk about Anthony Joshua. Looks like all goes well on the 26th. It'd be Dillian White next. Now, after the Usyk fight, I know you spoke about getting him out 4 times a year, having a rebuild phase. Dillian White, I know it's not the be no belts. Dillian White's not a rebuild phase. That's another massive fight. Is the reality of Anthony Joshua and what might be better for Anthony Joshua, the boxer, just totally different, and you've got to kind of...
Yeah, I think he sort of said, look, I don't see the point in having easy fights. Like, I've never done it. You know, can I get myself up for it in the same way, etc. I just want him to get active. I want him to improve. I want him to enjoy boxing. So if he waits till April or May, he'll go into a bigger fight. If he fights in February, he'll have, you know, still a big fight, but maybe not a White or that. So he's coming here this week, and we're going to sit down and map out his next move.
Is there anyone else you can tell us who's in the mix there apart from Dillian?
Really, you know, a lot of top 15 guys, but you know, we'll work on that together.
I mean, not to get back to the old contract deadlines malarkey, but with someone like AJ, who is he's a multinational business as well as a boxer. Let's be right. Is it hard to get a turnaround of someone like that fighting 3 or 4 times a year just because?
Yeah, because the commercial, you know, when he finishes a fight, he has to do 2 months of commercial activity. So it is difficult, but you know, he wants to get active and he wants to improve.
Do you know if he's staying with Robert Garcia?
No, I don't know.
That looked like a relationship that was beneficial to the fighter from afar anyway.
Garcia is a fantastic trainer, but you know, we'll see what the plans are for his camp next time.
Last question from me about someone else's questions to another boxer. You've probably seen the Tyson Fury and the Geordie interview, so I think so far this has gone better. But what do you make of it?
I thought Tyson Fury doesn't really like to get quizzed on stuff. That's the reality. There's a lot of people that just want to make sure they can keep interviewing him, but he does snap every now and again. So does everybody. I don't think True Geordie's questions were rude or personal. I thought they were fair enough, but whether he's having a bad day or just didn't want to answer it, you know, it's difficult, you know, like I do 20 interviews a day, 4 days a week. Like, sometimes you don't fancy doing them. And you got some bloke who's digging and digging and digging, or you feel he's digging and digging and digging, and you just think, off. Like, but it's my job to do interviews. It is Tyson's job to do interviews, but he's a fighter at the end of the day. So sooner or later, if he gets pissed off, he's going to let you know about it. So all in all, good promotion.